Hey guys, this is John. I hope you're all doing okay. So I'm recording this video on November 4th, 2025. And a little over 2 weeks ago, we received the news that Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, a friend of ours in the chess world, and a good friend to many, passed away at just the age of 29. And he passed away tragically and unexpectedly. And his death has been a very difficult thing to deal with, not only for myself, but for many of you who are watching this, I'm very sure. Daniel was a friend of mine, and I want to make this video to help remember him and give you some personal recollections of mine about Daniel, and just talk about the type of person he was, the one-of-a-kind individual he was. So I apologize in advance because I'm not 100% sure where this video is going to go. I have some ideas in my head about what I want to talk about, but I, again, just don't really know how this is going to turn out. But I do know that I want to make this video, and to me, this is one of the best ways I can honor Daniel. So I first met Daniel in 2014 at the Millionaire Chess Open in Las Vegas. It was called that because there was a $1 million prize fund with a $1,000 entry fee. Big money event put on by Maurice Ashley. And I knew who Daniel was at that point. He was, I think, about 18 years old. He probably had just graduated from high school, or maybe was soon to graduate. He was a top talent in the US for many, many years. I knew who he was. And for context, I'm 10 years older than Daniel. So we played actually in this tournament. And I think round 4, I want to say. I had the white pieces. Daniel played the King's Indian defense against me, his favorite King's Indian defense. And it was a pretty interesting game. We played to a draw. And we didn't talk much, just a little chit-chat after the game. But I remember him mentioning that he thought I played really well. I think he used the word solid. He said I played a really solid game and that I fully deserved the draw. And just, said good game. And I'm sure I said the same to him and wished him well. And he actually did go on to do very well in that tournament. He tied for first on points, but they had a playoff system. And I think he ended up getting 4th or 5th in the playoffs. Grandmaster Wesley So eventually won the tournament. So it was cool to play him there. And actually later that year, just a couple months later, I went back and looked at my YouTube channel to confirm this. But Daniel and I played in a couple blitz games that I posted on YouTube. So those old Internet Chess Club games that I recorded, Daniel was in a couple of those. And I talked about playing him at that Millionaire Chess Open. And I mentioned just how much of a nice guy he was. So already almost 10 years ago, looking back and watching that video, it's just neat to see that my perception of him at that time matches the type of person that he was, that many of you guys knew him as. So we had those few games, that over the board game and those couple of blitz games. A few years go by, and I don't recall seeing or talking to Daniel at tournaments or whatnot. But a few years go by, and in 2017, I had the privilege of teaching at a chess camp with Daniel, the Western Invitational Chess Camp in Tucson, Arizona, which is organized every year by a good friend of mine, Robbie Adamson. And it's a week-long camp. It's mostly for kids. Some of the best young players in the U.S. have attended that camp. And there's a number of all-star instructors every year, grandmasters, international masters. I had taught at that camp for several years, and I believe 2017 was the first time that Daniel had taught at that camp. And Daniel was still in college at the time. He was at Stanford. And that was where I really got to know Daniel better, at that 2017 camp. And boy, seeing Daniel interact with these campers there, seeing what a great educator Daniel was already at that point in his young life was remarkable. And even though there were some great teachers there, I don't think any of them would mind me saying that Daniel was the favorite instructor there by far in his first year. The kids adored him. His material was always on point. And Daniel was just so passionate and engaging when he was talking about chess or really anything. So it was remarkable to see the impact that he had on the campers. I think I managed to poke my head in his classroom a couple times. And anyone who ever saw Daniel teach anything was enthralled by his teaching style and just how he could communicate. There's really no one I've seen who was able to do that at Daniel's level. So not only did I get to see him teach and interact with the kids at that camp, but I also got to spend time with him outside of the classroom hours, because we all stayed at Robbie's house, and I got to play blitz chess with Daniel, as many of the other instructors did, have a few drinks, unwind. We would play ping pong. Robbie had a ping pong table, so we'd go at it there. We always had some heated ping pong battles. We had a lot of just good, deep discussions. Daniel, when I met him, I think I felt a little paternalistic towards him because although I'm not the chess player Daniel is, nor will I ever be, I kind of saw a bit of myself in him and the types of decisions that he was trying to make in his young life, especially in terms of trying to maybe go pro in chess. So being 10 years older, I had already thought through some of that stuff, not so much going pro as a player, but becoming a chess teacher and doing that for a living. So we talked a little bit more about, where he was at in life, what he was thinking about doing. At that point in 2017, he was very much finishing up his degree. I think he was probably a sophomore, maybe a junior at Stanford. But we actually taught at the same camp in the next 2 years too. So 2018 and 2019. And as both those camps went by, he was more and more thinking about what he was going to do after he graduated with his undergrad degree. And I'm happy to say that I was one of the people, not the only person, but one of them, who was really encouraging Daniel to consider a living in chess. Because he's such a bright guy. He, I think, was a history major, and he was thinking about going to grad school and pursuing higher education, further education related to history. But when you heard him talking about how he perceived his path going forward, it always seemed to come back to chess. And it was obvious, so obvious, that Daniel absolutely loved chess. And from seeing how he taught, it seemed like it would have been a waste if he didn't pursue chess for a living. So I think it was 2019, and this camp was always in the summer, but summer of 2019, where Daniel, it really clicked for him that, hey, I think I should do this. I think I should give chess a go and see what happens. And in that fall, I believe, he ended up moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, which was his kind of home, especially in his later years. Peter Giannatos, the director of the Charlotte Chess Center, was the one who brought him to Charlotte and arranged for Daniel to come and be the grandmaster in residence there. Peter is another friend of mine, and I think he's really the person who made things work, gave Daniel that push and that encouragement and that support to do chess for a living. And Daniel really thrived in Charlotte in the time that he lived there. That's where he came into his own as a educator, teaching at the Charlotte Chess Center, where he became known worldwide, really, later in his YouTube videos and streams, his speed runs, all the stuff that you guys know him for, his commentary on large events. All that occurred after Daniel moved to Charlotte. So I really want to mention the Charlotte crew, Peter Giannatos, Grant Owen, Dominique Myers. They really helped Daniel set him up there, and they were very good friends to Daniel. I think some of his best friends. So I want to show you guys a game. I don't want this to just be exclusively me talking about Daniel. I wanted to throw a little bit of chess in here. This is a game that we played in 2020, I think May of 2020. Daniel was streaming on Twitch during his Stanford years, I recall. Many of you might remember him playing from various rooms around the Stanford campus and whatnot. But this was one of his Twitch streams during, I guess it would have been the pandemic if it was May 2020. And I think the context around this game is that I was tuning into Daniel's stream because when Daniel was streaming, it was must-see TV, right? Just the command that he had of everyone who was interested in chess on Twitch was remarkable. So I think I actually ended a stream prior to us playing this game because I wanted to watch Daniel stream. And I rated him. I would always refer my viewers to Daniel, tell them to go watch him. So I think I was in Daniel's chat. He was looking for a game. And I want to say Daniel was actually playing this game blindfolded, believe it or not. I could make a multiple hour video just talking about Daniel's exploits as a chess player, the amazing feats that he was able to pull off due to his chess prowess. But I think he was playing this game blindfolded, and he was just looking for a decent opponent to play against to give him a challenge. So he was streaming, I was not, but I was in the chat, and I said, hey, sure, I'll play against you. But don't quote me on the blindfolded part. It's really doesn't matter too much, but it's something Daniel could definitely do as a GM, play against me as an IM, like he was that good. So I wanted to go through this game, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about Daniel. So he opened with d4 against me, and I actually played my Slav defense. It was a mainline Slav. We played in the Scandinavian, by the way, several times because Daniel was an e4 player. So we had multiple Scandinavian games, including one of those blitz games that I mentioned from way back in the ICC days. I'll link all that stuff below. So Slav, I take on c4, a4, the steps b5 for black. This is all normal stuff. We're both just developing. White wins the pawn back. Yep. Queen e2. I play bishop g6 here. This is in anticipation of white playing e4. And Daniel plays it anyways. Plays e4. Also a mainline move, by the way. So here, black could castle if they want. That would be a solid move. And then just meet e5 with knight d5. But I instead decided to play a line that I had played over the board in the past in a crucial game where I was gunning for a GM norm. I played bishop takes c3. So I take the knight, and then the point is you can take the pawn on e4 after that. But this is a little risky because of what Daniel did in reply. He played bishop a3, preventing black from castling short. So I've won a pawn here as black, but I'm not able to castle short so easily. You can see that this dark square bishop has a great deal of influence. And I was aware of this because this is how my over-the-board game went. So I played queen c7. A couple ideas there. One, black might look to play c5 to block this dark square bishop, and this queen on c7 helps support that. You might also think about playing knight d6, another move that the queen supports, maybe even castle queenside under some circumstances. You don't want to get too greedy here. I think knight takes c3 is probably bad in view of something like queen b2, hitting the pawn and also, or hitting the knight and also attacking b7. So queen c7, and Daniel played knight e5. And Daniel's style of chess was dynamic. He was always looking to push the pace, always looking to apply maximum pressure. He would set you creative problems. He was really a force to be reckoned with, not just in the broad sense as a chess player, but in terms of the pressure that he seemed to put on you. So knight e5 is kind of a characteristic move for Daniel, I would say. I played a6. The computer says I should have taken the knight, and then I think castled, actually, believe it or not. Castled long. But not queen takes e5, because that runs into f3. And white gets to exploit the pin on the knight. So I'm sure that's what we were both calculating here, but I don't know that it occurred to me to castle long in this position. So I played a6, which looks a little weird, but the idea is if I want to ever play c5 and look to castle short, I have to do so when I'm not running into bishop b5 with the pin on the knight on d7. So a6 is kind of a typical means of controlling this square in this line, maybe to work up to c5. So rook e1 is what Daniel played in reply. And actually, the computer says he had a chance to play knight takes f7 in this position. Because if I take with the bishop, he takes on e4. And if I take with the king, then f3 is an issue for black with the attack on the knight and the pressure on the pawn on e6 behind. I think if knight g5 trying to defend, probably h4 is going to be bad for black. So there was an opportunity for Daniel to tee off here with knight takes f7. But he preferred rook fe1. Remember, this is kind of a casual game for instructive purposes on Daniel's channel. And I'm pretty sure he was playing blindfold as well. So rook fe1. And I played the knight back to f6. Trying to stabilize. This does invite some stuff down the e file, but I think I was potentially seeing issues with f3. And also knight takes g6 is a threat, by the way, after rook fe1. I should mention this too. White could not have won a piece with knight takes g6 on the prior move because h takes g6, queen takes e4. If white was to try to remove the defender, runs into queen takes h2 checkmate. Very important to point out. So when white has played rook fe1, that's now on because knight takes g6, h takes g6, queen takes e4, queen takes h2. White would have king f1. White could start running away. So that's probably a big reason I voluntarily moved this knight back. Again, I probably determined it was too risky to take on c3. I don't want to mess around with capturing another pawn there. So knight back to f6. And now Daniel played bishop takes e6. And again, this is such a characteristic move for him. Bishop takes e6. A good move, actually. Thrusting the game into complications. Just forcing me to now fight for my life, where my king is going to get opened up, as you'll see. So I take the bishop. He takes on g6. I take back. Queen takes e6 check. King d8. So at this point, Daniel has just one pawn for a piece, but clearly my king is a problem in the middle of the board still. With the rooks disconnected, the king also can't go to c7. I remember queen takes h2, being happy about that, as by virtue of white having taken on g6. Like I do always have that as a possible idea. But Daniel squashes that by playing bishop d6. Good move. Blocking queen takes h2, hitting the queen, kind of further stranding my king in the center. I go queen a5. We both have quite a bit of time left at this point, by the way. And here he goes queen e7. And I think this also was not the best according to the engine. I think the engine said Daniel should have played queen f7. A bit of a slower move, but letting this black king simmer on the d8 square. Maybe going after the g7 pawn as well. Because sometimes when you actually check your opponent's king and you push them in the direction that they're intending to flee, it helps them in a way, right? So I think queen e7 is a small mistake for that reason. I actually want to flee towards the queen side. So king c8, rook b1, looking to get another piece in the game, try to increase the pressure. I'm sure at this point in the game, I'm just fighting for my orientation and fighting to stay afloat, because when Daniel Naroditsky sacks a piece on you and the position at all looks unclear or dangerous, you're probably nervous. And I'm sure I was at this point. So I went queen d8, which turns out to be a good move, offering a queen trade. If your king is in danger and your opponent is trying to open it up further, a queen trade is often a good way to increase the margin of safety for your position. So I would very much welcome a queen swap. But I didn't get that, of course. He plays queen takes g7, so now he's picked up another pawn. But I go queen g8, still hounding him. Queen to e7, and now knight d5. Attacking the queen, getting the knight on a nice stable square. Daniel played queen g5. And it's still difficult to organize my position. I actually took the pawn on c3 now, probably for lack of something better to do. This sort of erratic position, I mean, it's very hard to get your bearings, and you don't want to spend too much time. I think the computer said b5 was the way to go, which looks very risky to me, even in hindsight. But I suppose one of the ideas is I might be able to play king b7 in the future. But with this rook's influence still stalking me on b1, that does look tough. So I took the pawn on c3, attacking the rook. But here's where Daniel plays a nice move that dictates some of the coming play. He goes queen a5, swinging the queen over to the other flank, attacking the knight, but most importantly, threatening queen c7 checkmate. And I don't recall if I saw queen a5 in advance. It's possible I missed this move because it is kind of unexpected, right? Swinging the queen to the other flank. But fortunately, I have a stabilizing move. I played knight back to d5, solving both those issues. So saving the knight, guarding the c7 square. And now Daniel played rook from e1 to c1, lining up with my king. And I don't think there's a direct threat here, but the position just looks uncomfortable for me still, right? This bishop on d6 and the queen on a5 limit where my king can go. My king is caught in the crosshairs with that rook. The other rook is participating in the pressure too. I'm trying to crouch behind these queenside pawns. This knight on d5 that is a good defender, but sort of tenuously held up by my queen from g8. It's hard to coordinate all my major pieces. So this is still a position where I think as black, you're going to be feeling under pressure. I played rook h5. Looks like it took me about a minute to play that move. So lending further support to the knight. Also maybe trying to do something in regards to that queen on a5, some sort of discovery. And here Daniel played g4. So a move on a different flank this time. Looking to knock my rook off balance. I played rook h4. Probably didn't want to wedge my rook in on g5, even though that's another way to attack the g-pawn. So I played rook h4 to threaten the g-pawn, and he went f3, stabilizing that pawn. I played g5. Time is getting lower here. I'm ticking down towards 2 minutes. Daniel still has over 3. Yeah, g5, probably for lack of something better to do. I mean, maybe I was trying to give my queen a little more scope, but my queen is tied down to the knight. I also might have been thinking about trying to put my other knight on f6, but maybe I wanted to rule out g5. That could have been part of the calculus there. And here Daniel plays, another move that looks quintessential Naroditsky to me. Rook b5. Sending the rook up to the 5th rank, making use of both pins. So I can't take with the c pawn, right? That's illegal. And if I take with the a pawn, Daniel has queen takes a8, which is just an utter disaster. So Daniel could just come up with moves like this as if it was as natural as breathing for him. He was such a naturally talented chess player. And that move even when reviewing this game now, like it was hard to remember that this move was what was coming, but I bet for him, how much time did he spend? He went from 314 down to 241. Yeah, even if he was blindfolded, like that's not a move that's at all outside of his wheelhouse. So excellent move. It threatens rook takes d5. And in addition, it takes advantage of those 2 pins, right? So here I played the move b6 after some thought. So true to my form, I'm burning half my time on this move. And b6 is not bad, but it's not the best move. The computer says I should have played this reinforcing move that I mentioned, knight from d7 to f6, to back up the knight. And again, my knight on d5 is guarding the c7 square. It said that would have been the best way to play, and I can still claim an advantage here, although the position remains messy. But instead, I played b6. And I'll give you guys a little quiz. Daniel was so good at doing this in his speedrun videos and his instructive streams, giving you guys stuff to chew on, challenging you. So white is not better here, but what would you do if you were playing white? See if you can find the best continuation. And if you want to pause your video to do so, you can do that. Okay, so clearly I'm trying to attack the queen and knock her off balance so I can ideally go capture that rook on b5 with a takes b5. But I'm leaving all my pawns on the 6th rank, and the c6 pawn is vulnerable. So rook takes c6 to start is correct. And I played king b7 here. And I'm pretty sure I didn't see this coming. I wish I had a record of this. So if anyone has a record of this stream by Daniel, I would love to see it. May 24th, 2020. But at this point, I was probably feeling good because look at all the pieces that are under attack. Guess I'm not threatening b takes a5, but I'm definitely threatening both of the white rooks at this point. King takes c6 and a takes b5. And remember, Daniel's already trying to get compensation for being down a piece. So maybe I even thought I was winning at this point. But Daniel uncorked rook on b5 takes b6. And this is the only correct way to continue this combination after rook takes c6. Okay? So I played knight on d7 takes b6. I'm still trying to control the c7 square. So I'm taking with this knight in order to do that. But even though it looks like Daniel has the same problems, right? Because king takes c6 is a threat. I'm guarding the c7 square. Now I'm up a rook and a piece. He had something up his sleeve. He played queen takes b6, sacrificing his queen. I take with the knight, which is forced. There's no other legal moves. And now rook c7, finally. Rook takes c7 has been freed up. I have to play king b8, only move. And if Daniel could have played for a win at this point, I'm quite certain that he would have done so because he was always a fighting player. But he played rook c6 check. He's down too much material to do much else. So rook c6 check. Anywhere, I guess, back down the d file would have worked. But rook c6, king b7. King a7 runs into rook c7 again. So king b7, rook c7 check, king b8, rook c6. And we ended up repeating the position for a draw. So this is how this 10+5 game played by Daniel while streaming, and I'm pretty sure blindfolded, ended against me while I played off stream, just hanging out in his chat with full sight of the board. And I just remember being very impressed that he could do all of that, play blindfolded, speak to his chat about what he was doing, play this fighting game, and especially uncork this combination at the end. I'll throw the computer on so you can see. So if we back up to where I quizzed you guys, b6, this is the only continuation for white that doesn't end in disaster. Rook takes c6. I guess I could have gone king d8, but then rook 7 takes c6 somehow still works out to equality. But yeah, I just remember being very impressed by this little combo that Daniel uncorked. And I don't think he had to work very hard. He was just so adept at these tactics and this sort of calculation. So a very fitting draw, true to Daniel's style. So Daniel, when it came to our individual games, I just wanted to click on his profile to show you guys. The score between us, needless to say, was very lopsided over the years. How do I actually get to that? I wanted to show you guys how that works. Overview. Yeah, right here. So our score over the years, 16.5 for me, 51.5 for him. Very much lopsided. But we tended to have interesting games when we played. And I love the fact that I was able to get so many games in against Daniel, Blitz, Bullet, and also that game from 2014, Millionaire Chess. It was always such a privilege and a kick to play him, given how strong he was. So cool to play him on chess.com and ICC back in the days too. So yeah, this was just one game where we played and it did end peacefully, although the score was very much lopsided in his favor. But yeah, I mentioned this game at this point because I talked about my early interactions with Daniel, meeting him for the first time, teaching with him at the Western Invitational Chess Camp. I did see him less when he moved to Charlotte, because that is when he started becoming such a success in the chess world and naturally became busier, got more opportunities to travel around the world, not only playing, but also doing a lot of commentary. He played the US Championship for several years. Many of us remember his famous victory against Fabiano Caruana with the black pieces in I believe it was the 2021 US Championship. That was amazing. So yeah, I saw Daniel a little less often and spoke to him a little bit less often past about 2020, 2021. But we did exchange messages every couple of months. I would see him in Charlotte maybe once or twice per year, get together for some dinners and whatnot with the Charlotte crew. And whenever I did see Daniel, it was always very genuine. He was the type of person who always made you feel special, cared about you, and wished the best for you. He loved chess and chess players. And he was never shy in showing his appreciation for players who had a different style than him or were even just objectively weaker than him, which was most everyone, let's be honest. So I really appreciated about Daniel. Just another couple of anecdotes. We played so much blitz chess together at that Western Invitational Chess Camp later in Charlotte. And there was something about Daniel that I always thought was really interesting, because in competitions, he had this ability to lock in. You could see it on his face. He would, like when the clock started, after the hands had been shaken, he would lock in and he would get into this game mode, this hyper competitive game mode, for lack of a better term. And you could just see the level of focus. It was a remarkable transformation. But then when the game was over, he kind of transformed back to his normal, affable Danya that we all know. And I know for me, when we played, and in the many times that he beat me, even with time odds and stuff like that, he almost seemed a little sheepish that he won. You know, he'd smile, he'd kind of have this look on his face like, I got you there, but you could have done this or this. And, you know, it was close, you know, interesting game if you had done that. And it's a small thing, but those of you who have played over the board will know. I think it's the sign of a real competitor who respects who they're playing against and respects the camaraderie in chess, the social aspects of the game. And I think that's one of the things I will take away about Daniel personally, is he was such a modest but highly capable person, and he used that for good. He wanted other people to feel good about chess and what they were doing in chess. and he wasn't shy to show that. I've played a number of top players who weren't at all like that, and they not even necessarily have to be mean, but a lot of top players, once you get done playing them, they might not want to talk to you. There might be very cursory words exchanged, but nothing that ever indicates that, they're interested in any further dialogue. But Daniel wasn't like that. He would be very happy to discuss, look at a game with you, even if you didn't know him. I saw this many times with people that Daniel would have been well within his right to just keep things short. He would go the extra mile and give a few encouraging words, even if it was a complete beginner. And I always appreciated that about Daniel, that he did that. And you also saw it with his commentary. He was such a fantastic commentator, but he never overpowered broadcasts. He would always make space for his fellow commentators to shine. Daniel loved basketball. He loved the Golden State Warriors. And he was the type of basketball player or chess player, in this analogy as in basketball, who would not be focused on making the best individual play. He'd always look for the best team play. And that's one of the things I really admired about the guy, just his humility and his awareness. I think he knew what a talent he was and what an exceptional person he was, but he never exploited that fact. He always used it for good, and he always used it to uplift people and try to make things a little brighter for people, teach them, give them an encouraging word. So this is just one of many anecdotes, this game, the circumstances around it, in regards to Daniel's Twitch and YouTube stuff. I always loved watching him stream. I know many of you did as well. It was so funny to see Daniel with a Twitch title on his stream of, short stream before bed. And then you tune in and he was already 4 or 5 hours in, and the chat was loving it. He was pushing for some high rating. He just loved to play chess. He really, really did. And it was always a joy to watch. His impressions, how he could segue so easily from talking about a technical aspect of a chess game to, current events, sports, history. He knew so much about not only chess history, but history in general. I remember a stream where he was talking about the Salem witch trials of the 1600s and speaking about it in great depth. I think he actually wrote a paper on that back in college. So just a multi-talented Renaissance man. And it's hard to talk about because I feel this short tribute, it only does a very small part of that justice. But his online exploits were legendary. And I will remember fondly tuning into his streams, hanging out in the chat, seeing how much Daniel kept people in the palm of his hand without really trying. It was that level of engagement that he just put on so effortlessly. So, yeah, I unfortunately didn't see Daniel as often in the last couple years, but when we did speak, it was always very heartfelt. And I'm happy that I could encourage him to pursue chess full time. And I look back at some of our messages, and he actually was asking for advice on YouTube at one point. I was telling him he should open up a YouTube channel and not just do Twitch, but start posting even some of his past highlights and things. And I'm really glad he did that at one point. And we all see the success of his YouTube channel, his speed runs, especially. That content will live on forever. So I wrote a couple things down because I know I'm rambling and I was really concerned about that. But yeah, Daniel was just must-see TV whenever he streamed or whenever a new video came out. He was my favorite content creator to watch by a good margin. So yeah, I want to start wrapping this video up. I wanted to give my sincere condolences to all of Daniel's friends and family, especially his mother and his brother. Daniel had a girlfriend as well who lived out of state. I mentioned this on Twitter, but he didn't talk about his relationship publicly, and I want to fully respect that. But I have been in touch with his girlfriend, and she's very hurt. She loved Daniel. And of course, she's broken up about his passing. And I don't want her to be forgotten in all of this, too, because Daniel meant a lot to many people, even beyond the chess world, even though that's where he made his biggest impact. So Daniel's family, his girlfriend, the Charlotte crew, again, those were Daniel's best friends, I believe. It's not my position to say, but they were very, very, very close to Daniel. Peter Giannatos, Grant Owen, Dominique Myers, probably others too. Alexander Bortnick as well. Robbie Adamson too, who was the person who put on those Western Invitational chess camps. He was very close to Daniel. If you know those individuals, or you see them at chess tournaments or whatnot, please give them your best, your condolences over Daniel. But really, we're all mourning his passing, right? This is tough for all of us. An irreplaceable guy. I wrote down here, someone posted on Reddit, the chess forum on Reddit, a link to all the articles Daniel has written, because Daniel wasn't just a player, commentator, streamer, all those things, educator. He was also an author too, right? So he wrote a book when he was 14 years old, Mastering Positional Chess. And then he wrote another one 2 years later, before he even graduated high school. And he wrote, I don't know, maybe a couple dozen articles for chess.com that are all extremely high quality. And shout out to the person who aggregated that list and posted it on Reddit, because I was clicking on some of those articles last night. And I had to laugh because I clicked on an article and Daniel used the word, I wrote it down here, opprobrium, opprobrium, opprobrium. And I had never heard that word in my life. And that is such a Daniel Naroditsky SAT word. He was so eloquent. He had such a way of weaving in words and teaching you something with the vocabulary that he used. He's one of the best speakers I've ever had the privilege of knowing. It's just remarkable how he could weave words like that. And not only that, just make things sound so natural and engaging anytime he spoke about a topic. I wanted to mention Aman Hambleton, Grandmaster Aman Hambleton. He made a phenomenal tribute to Daniel. I think it's about an hour long. He posted it on YouTube. I'm going to be linking to that as well. Many people have posted about Daniel, and all these tributes have been great, but this is one I wanted to highlight. I think Aman did a fantastic job. One thing that Aman said in that video that really stuck with me is how Daniel was elite at multiple categories. He wasn't just one of these players, streamers, content creators, authors even, like the list I just mentioned. I think the way Aman phrased it is, someone in chess would love to be just one of those things at an elite level. That would be a great legacy and would indicate a phenomenal career. Just being a great player, or being an awesome teacher, like a Mark Naroditsky type, or commentator, whatever. But Daniel was world-class in all of those categories. And I think, even though we remember him as a person, at least I do, first and foremost, it's just remarkable how multifaceted he was, and how he could switch context, switch audiences, how he could make talking about a PogChamps game between two content creators who are not chess players seem as exciting as a world championship game between Nepomniachtchi and Ding. You know, that takes a real special person to be able to do that. And Daniel was able to do that. So I highly recommend taking a look at Aman's video. I thought he made an especially touching and amazing tribute that was far more organized than what I'm talking about here. So I guess I want to close with this. This is something I've been thinking about. We will never forget Daniel and the impact that he's had on all of us. That goes without saying. But the one thing that gives me some consolation is I really believe that people like Daniel, for whatever reason, just are sometimes not meant to be on this earth for very long. We wish they were, but there's people who have passed away that have had such an impact that when you look at their life, you look back on it, you kind of wonder if they almost shone too brightly to be around for too long. Almost like the world has to have taken some lessons away from them in a short period of time, shorter than they deserved, to truly appreciate them. So Daniel was this shining star streaking across the sky. And if you're watching this video, you were privileged to be in a time when Daniel was around. And I take some consolation in knowing that in that way, in my opinion, Daniel lived many lifetimes because of the positive impact that he had on all of us. And this outpouring of support that we've seen online is the truest testament to that. So many of you have been so positively impacted by Daniel in his life and have grieved so heavily in his passing. And there's not really many people who can leave a legacy like that, and a positive one, that it affects people on that level, that when they pass away for even their 30th birthday, people remember them by that. So I do take some consolation that Daniel, in a way, lived a life that any of us would be proud to live. And he touched so many people, lived so many lifetimes in his short time on this earth. And we're not going to forget him. We'll never forget his legacy, the person he was, the type of friend he was to all of us. That will live on. So, again, condolences to all of you watching this, all his friends, family, girlfriend. On a personal note, Daniel, I hope to see you again someday, buddy. When I do, I hope you have the chess set ready, because you're going to be ready to kick my butt. I'm sure the clock will be set for 3 minutes, or if you're feeling generous, you can give me some odds, maybe 3 minutes to a minute and a half or something like that. And in the meantime, we'll do our best to carry your legacy forward. Try to be better chess players, but more importantly, just try to be better people, because you really were a great person. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Do take a look at Aman's video as well. And in the style of what Aman mentioned in his video, it'd be great if you dropped a memory in the comments about what Daniel meant to you. And if you have any memories of him that you'd like to share. I'll be linking to some of the videos I've put out with Daniel over the years, those blitz games I mentioned. There's a game where I was spectating when he played Magnus Carlsen, I think in a 48-game match, that I will share as well. There's a climbing the rating ladder game where I played a King's Indian in Daniel's honor a couple years ago. Tried to do his King's Indian justice. And boy, even just talking about his online exploits, I mean, I'm thinking of that match he played with Alireza Firouzja, that marathon match with 250 games when Firouzja was in the candidates. He played Magnus Carlsen on Magnus's wedding night, I think. It's just, there's so many things come to mind. And this video would be much longer if I even tried to scratch the surface on them. But Daniel, we're going to miss you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. And please enjoy chess. Daniel would have liked that. Have a good time with your friends. That camaraderie, the social aspects of the game, that's what you're going to remember at the end of the day. Improvement is nice, but make friends and embrace the chess community on the way. So I do think Daniel would have wanted that. So thanks again, everyone.